Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The contract hit the mahogany desk with a sound like a gunshot, echoing through the silence of the penthouse office that smelled of expensive scotch and lethal intent. "I don't want your money," Julian whispered, his voice trembling not from fear, but from the adrenaline of a man jumping off a cliff. "I want his head on a platter. I want to watch him lose everything the way I did. I want to burn his legacy to the ground, and I know you are the only man in Seoul with the matches." The man sitting in the high-backed leather chair didn't blink. He sat in the shadows, a silhouette of broad shoulders and predatory stillness. Slowly, he leaned forward, the city lights reflecting in eyes as black as obsidian, eyes that belonged to the older, more ruthless brother of the man Julian once loved. "You come to me." The man's voice was a low rumble, a baritone that vibrated in Julian's chest, asking me to destroy my own blood, the heir to the Hanson Group, my younger brother. "And you think your pretty face is enough payment? You are an Omega who was discarded publicly. You are damaged goods, Julian. Why should I, Kong Teo, the head of this family, pick up his scraps?" "Because," Julian stepped forward, placing his hands on the desk, leaning into the alpha's oppressive pheromones which smelled of crushed cedar and cold iron. "Beom Suk didn't just break my heart. He stole your blueprints. I have the proof. I am the only one who can get close enough to plant it back on him." Teo's eyes narrowed. The air in the room grew heavy, the atmospheric pressure dropping as his dominant aura expanded. He stood up, towering over the desk, and walked slowly around it until he was standing inches from Julian. He reached out, his large hand gripping Julian's chin, tilting his face up. "If you lie to me," Teo murmured, his thumb brushing over Julian's trembling bottom lip, "I won't just kill you. I will make you wish you had died the day he left you at the altar." The rain in Seoul was relentless that autumn, washing the neon grime of the city into the gutters, but it couldn't wash away the shame that clung to Julian. It had been 3 months since the wedding that never was. The tabloids had feasted on it for weeks. Julian Min, the penniless Omega orphan, left standing at the altar by the golden boy, Han Beom Suk. Beom Suk had called it a lapse in judgment. He had been photographed leaving a hotel with a senator's daughter an hour before the ceremony. He hadn't even bothered to call. He simply sent a text. "It's business, Julian. You understand. You were always too meek for the world I'm building. Too meek." Julian stared at his reflection in the glass of the skyscraper window. He was thinner now. The softness that Beom Suk had claimed to love, before he grew bored of it, was gone, replaced by sharp angles and hollow cheeks. Julian had spent 3 months crying. Now he was done. He had heard the rumors about the Han family. Everyone knew that while Beom Suk was the public face, the charismatic, smiling golden child, the real power lay with his older half-brother, Kong Teo. Teo was illegitimate, born of a mistress, but his ruthlessness had clawed him to the top of the syndicate that underpinned the legitimate corporation. They hated each other. It was a cold war of inheritance and blood. Julian adjusted the collar of his shirt. He was walking into the lion's den to bargain with the beast. The plan was simple, yet suicidal. Beom Suk was arrogant. He believed Julian was still pining, still the meek boy who would wait forever. Julian would use that arrogance. But to truly ruin Beom Suk, to strip him of his inheritance and his social standing, Julian needed the backing of the family head. He needed Teo. When the deal was struck in that dark office, Julian expected to be treated like a servant, a tool. He didn't expect the clothes. 2 days after their meeting, a delivery arrived at Julian's shabby apartment. Boxes of silk, cashmere, and velvet. Suits cut to accentuate the slender curve of his waist, shirts that felt like water against his skin. There was no note, just a black card with a location and time. The gala of the winter solstice. It was the most important social event of the season. Beom Suk would be there with his new fiancée. Julian arrived at the venue, a sprawling estate on the outskirts of the city. His heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. He wore a suit of midnight blue velvet, the color so dark it looked black under the chandeliers. A diamond choker, thin and elegant, rested against his throat, a symbol of ownership, or perhaps a warning. A black limousine pulled up. The window rolled down, and Teo looked out. He looked devastating in a tuxedo, his dark hair slicked back, exposing the sharp, cruel lines of his face. "Get in," Teo commanded. Julian slid into the leather seat. The interior smelled of that same intoxicating cedar and iron scent. It made Julian's omega instincts flare, a primal whine in the back of his mind that recognized a prime alpha. "You look." Teo paused, his gaze sweeping over Julian with a terrifying intensity, lingering on the exposed skin of his neck. "Acceptable. High praise," Julian muttered, looking away. "Look at me when I speak to you." The command wasn't shouted. It was stated with the absolute certainty of gravity. Julian turned, meeting those dark eyes. "Tonight," Teo said, his voice lowering, "you are not the abandoned ex-fiancé. You are mine. You breathe when I tell you to breathe. You speak when I allow it. And when Beom sees you, I want him to realize that he threw away a diamond to pick up a rock. Do you understand?" "Yes," Julian whispered. "Good." Teo reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring. It was a heavy, silver band with an onyx stone. He took Julian's left hand, the hand that had been bare for 3 months, and slid the ring onto his ring finger. It was cold. "Wear this. It sends a message." "What message?" "That you are under my protection. And in this world, Julian, my protection is the only thing that matters." The ballroom was a sea of jewels and hypocrisy. The elite of Seoul mingled, sipping champagne and whispering secrets. When the doors opened and the announcer called out, "CEO Kong Teo," the room went silent. Teo entered, walking with a predator's grace. And on his arm, head held high, was Julian. The whispers started immediately. A wave of shock rippled through the crowd. Julian felt the weight of hundreds of eyes, but the heavy, warm hand of Teo on his lower back kept him grounded. The alpha's pheromones were wrapping around him, creating a protective barrier that screamed, "Keep away." Across the room, Beom froze. He was holding a champagne flute, laughing with a group of investors. His smile vanished. The senator's daughter by his side looked confused, but Beom eyes were locked on Julian. Anger, confusion, and then desire. Julian saw it. The way Beom gaze raked over him, noting the expensive suit, the healthier glow of his skin, the ring on his finger. Beom set his glass down and began to march across the room. "Stay close," Teo murmured near Julian's ear. "Hyung," Beom greeted, his voice tight, his smile fake. "I didn't know you were bringing a guest." "And Julian." He said the name like it was a bad taste. "I see you found a new sponsor. Moving up in the world." It was a crude insult, meant to reduce Julian to a prostitute. Julian's hands clenched into fists. "Careful, little brother," Teo said, his voice mild but carrying a razor's edge. "You are speaking to my partner." "Partner?" Beom laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "Julian? Don't make me laugh. He's a domestic pet, Teo. He belongs in a kitchen, not a boardroom. I trained him well, didn't I, Julian? Did you tell my brother how you used to beg me to stay the night?" The cruelty was casual, practiced. It was the same tone he had used when he broke off the engagement. Julian felt the old shame rising, the heat flushing his cheeks. But then, Teo moved. It was subtle, a shift in stance. The air around them suddenly grew heavy, difficult to breathe. Teo didn't shout. He simply stepped forward, placing himself partially between Julian and Beom. "You seem to be confused," Teo said softly. "You think you know this man. But the boy you knew is gone. You killed him. The man standing next to me rose from the ashes you left behind. And unlike you, Beom, I do not play with my food. And I certainly do not discard treasure." Teo looked at Julian, his expression softening imperceptibly. "Shall we dance?" It wasn't a question. Teo led Julian to the dance floor, leaving Beom fuming in their wake. As they moved to the waltz, Julian looked up at Teo. "Why did you defend me? I thought I was just bait." Teo's hand tightened on Julian's waist. "You are bait," he admitted. "But that doesn't mean I will allow a mongrel to bark at you. While you wear my ring, an insult to you is an insult to me. Is that all?" Julian asked, emboldened by the proximity. Teo looked down, his eyes searching Julian's face. For a moment, the mask of the ruthless CEO slipped. "You have spirit, Julian." Beom never saw that. He wanted a doll. I prefer a partner who can hold a knife." The moment was shattered by a commotion. Beom Suk was making a scene, shouting at a waiter, his face red with humiliated rage. He was unraveling. The plan was working. Beom Suk couldn't handle seeing Julian thriving, especially not with the brother he envied and feared. Later that night, the trap was sprung. Julian went to the terrace for fresh air. It was secluded, shadowed by ivy. He knew Beom Suk would follow. It was inevitable. "You think you're clever," Beom Suk's voice hissed from the darkness. Julian turned. Beom Suk was disheveled, smelling of too much alcohol and sour pheromones. "I think I'm free, Beom Suk," Julian said calmly. "You're not free." Beom Suk lunged, grabbing Julian's wrist. "You're mine. I threw you away, which means you stay in the trash until I decide otherwise. Taking up with Teo, just to spite me? You slut. Let go," Julian said, his voice icy. "No," Beom Suk snarled, his eyes flashing red as he tried to use his alpha voice, a command to force submission. Kneel, Omega, asterisk. The command hit Julian like a physical blow. His knees buckled instinctively, biology fighting against will. He gasped, fighting the urge to submit, tears stinging his eyes. "See?" Beom Suk grinned, raising his hand to strike. "You're nothing without." The hand never landed. A shadow detached itself from the wall. A fist moved with blurring speed, connecting with Beom Suk's jaw with a sickening crack. Beom Suk crumbled to the stone floor, unconscious before he hit the ground. Teo stood over him, shaking out his hand. He looked at the unconscious body of his brother with absolute indifference, then turned his blazing eyes to Julian. "Did he touch you?" Teo demanded, his voice rough, uncontrolled. He tried to command me," Julian gasped, still fighting the lingering effects of the alpha voice. Teo dropped to his knees in front of Julian. He didn't care about the mud or the expensive suit. He cupped Julian's face, his thumbs wiping away the tears. "Look at me," Teo ordered. "Breathe. His voice has no power here. My authority overrides his. You are not his. You are not." He pulled Julian into his chest, wrapping his arms around him tightly. The scent of cedar and iron flooded Julian's senses, washing away the sour smell of Beom Suk. It was grounding. "Safe." "Why?" Julian whispered into Teo's shoulder. "Why did you help me really? You could have just taken the blueprints I stole." Teo pulled back slightly, his dark eyes intense. "Logic dictates I should have. But logic failed me the moment you walked into my office. I told myself it was about destroying Beom Suk. But tonight, when I saw him look at you, I realized I didn't want to destroy him for business. I wanted to kill him for looking at what belongs to me." Julian's breath hitched. "Belongs to you?" Ideally, an alpha shouldn't claim an omega he doesn't love. "Love is a useless word in our world," Teo said, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. "It's weak. Obsession, however. Loyalty. Need. Those are real. And I need you, Julian. Not as a pawn. Not as bait. Then as what?" "As my equal," Teo said. "Beom Suk is finished. With the footage of him assaulting you tonight, combined with the stolen intellectual property you retrieved, the board will disown him by morning. I will be the sole heir. And I need someone by my side who understands the darkness of this world, but still shines." He leaned in, his lips brushing against Julian's ear. "Stay with me. Not for revenge, but because you want to see what happens when the villain wins the prize." Julian looked at the unconscious man on the floor, the man he thought he loved, and then at the man holding him, the monster who had saved him. The choice was terrifying. The choice was inevitable. Julian reached up, tangling his fingers in Teo's hair, and pulled him down. "Show me," Julian whispered. "Show me how the villain loves." And that is how the Butcher of Soul found his heart, not in innocence, but in the shared fire of vengeance. If you enjoyed seeing Teo completely dismantle his brother to protect Julian, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you choose the safe, boring love, or the dangerous obsession of a man who would burn the world for you? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt, masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art. 2 men. BL, Yaoi, Man 1. Kong Teo, tall broad alpha, slicked back black hair, sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, wearing midnight blue velvet tuxedo, protective stance, dominant expression, looking down. Man 2. Julian, beautiful omega, slender build, soft brown hair. Wearing elegant white suit with diamond choker, looking up with flushed cheeks and teary eyes. Hand on man 1's chest. Background is moonlit stone terrace of luxury mansion. Unconscious man blurring in background on floor. Shadows, dramatic lighting, romantic tension, cinematic composition, intricate details.